What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back with another schedule preview and record prediction. And today we're going to be looking at the 2020 Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State, of course, a team that is always near the top of the Big Ten, always competing with Ohio State for that top spot in the Big Ten East. They just can never seem to surpass that mountain that is Ohio State. They made it to the Big Ten Championship a couple years ago. Still have not been able to punch their ticket into the college football playoff. But could this be the year for Penn State? Could they finally make it to the college football playoff? Well, we're going to head and take a look at their schedule and see if it can help them out a little bit. And if Penn State is ultimately make it to the college football playoff for the first time. So here is their schedule. Of course, there are some interesting games on the schedule. For Penn State, I think there are two that stand out, maybe three. But before we do that, down there you're going to see their 2019 record was 11-2. Of course, did not make it to the Big Ten championship game. Made it to a New Year's Six bowl. Still, they played in the Cotton Bowl against the Group of Five champion Memphis, and they controlled that entire game. It was a high-scoring game. They beat Memphis. That pushed them to 11 wins. Then you're going to look up there. At my little key, their home games are going to be in blue and their away games are going to be in white with a blue background. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's take a look at their schedule. Starting with their first game, of course, they're going to be playing Kent State. I'm not going to talk about this one for long because as I say in the Alabama video, Kent State is not all that great. Kent State just I mean, there's not a lot to say about this matchup. It's just a total mismatch. Penn State has way too much talent, and there's no way Kent State is going to be able to compete in Happy Valley against the Nittany Lions. So Penn State wins this one big. Then you have to go on the road and play Virginia Tech. This one is interesting. Virginia Tech's the team that I have ranked in my preseason top 25 poll. Virginia Tech could be a very good team this year. They could do well in the ACC. Of course, Virginia Tech is bringing in a fairly good recruiting class, so they should have some talent coming in there. And they get Penn State at home, which is big for Virginia Tech. We're not here to talk about Virginia Tech. We're here to talk about Penn State. And I think Penn State's going to win this game. Here's why. I think when you look at Penn State's offense versus Virginia Tech's defense, Penn State's offense is just better than what Virginia Tech's defense is. Penn State's got some weapons. I know I've said previously that they need to find a wide receiver, or a reliable wide receiver, but that doesn't mean that their wide receivers are bad. Penn State has really, really good wide receivers. I know they're losing KJ Hamler, but Penn State has some good talent there at wide receivers. And, of course, you have the tight end Pat Freiermuth. They can just beat Virginia Tech's defense in every way. Then you flip those roles, Virginia Tech's offense with Penn State's defense. Penn State's defense can stop anything that Virginia Tech may be able to throw at them. This game is in Blacksburg, which makes a little bit of a difference. I still think Penn State's going to ultimately be favored in this game, and Penn State is going to win this game, in my opinion. Then you have to play San Jose State. You come back home. Again, I'm not going to talk about this one long because San Jose State, of course, not really known for their football program. San Jose State, the team in the Mountain West Conference. So, again, Penn State should have no problem with the Spartans. Then you have Northwestern at home. Northwestern is a team that I think surprised a lot of people in ESPN's FPI because ESPN has them ranked, I believe, 25th in the FPI. And I think that is way, way, way too high. I think Northwestern has the potential to make it back to a bowl game. And I'm not saying I rely on the FPI. I definitely look at it, but I do not base anything I say off the FPI. It's just an incredibly unreliable thing. But they have Northwestern going like 8-4, I believe. So, again, way too high. I do think Northwestern has the potential, and they definitely have some of the talent that they need to make it to a bowl game this year. But playing Penn State out of the East is not going to help their cause. So I have Penn State winning this one big. Again, on paper, it's a total mismatch. Penn State twice as good as Northwestern is, so Penn State will win this one, maybe even 3 times. Then you have to go on the road to play Michigan. Michigan, as I said in my top 25 video, is, well, a little bit of a disappointment to me because I think they've proven to be a consistent 8-4, 9-3. I know they went 10-2 the one year. I believe that was 2016. But again, Michigan and Jim Harbaugh could not seem to just figure it out and find a way to get into the Big Ten championship game. Penn State has been able to beat Michigan in Happy Valley and in the Big House pretty consistently over the past couple of years. So Penn State, again, when I look at this game on paper, I know it's in the Big House, but Penn State, again, just has more talent than Michigan does. Michigan's going to be losing a lot of production. And, of course, we didn't have spring football, and we might not have a lot of practice. So Michigan is not going to be able to, in my opinion, compete with what Penn State brings to the table in terms of raw talent, which I think is really going to have to show out this year. So I have Penn State winning this one. Then you have your bye week. I think this is a fairly good place for a bye week. There's definitely one spot that I would like to have this bye week more if I was a Penn State fan, and that would be after the Iowa game instead of after the Michigan game. But it's nice, you have a bye week after a road game in what's going to be a hostile environment, one of the biggest and loudest stadiums in college football. Then you have to play Iowa, a team who is known for doing great things on the road, at home, but on the road, they're just not very good. Iowa has to play Penn State and Ohio State on the road, the top 2 teams from the Big Ten East. So, again, I think Iowa could make it back to a bowl game, but again, I keep talking about the talent gap in all my videos, and the talent gap is such a big thing for me. Penn State definitely has more talent than Iowa does, and Iowa's just losing so much. I think there's a lot of uncertainty going into the Iowa next season, and for that reason, Penn State's winning this one. Now here's a game that I'm getting hyped up for. I hope you are getting hyped up for. It's the Ohio State game. This game proves to be good almost every single year between these two teams, and it's happened as of late. This game is going to be a whiteout. It's going to be a night game. This stadium is going to be rocking. It's going to be such a fun atmosphere. Penn State's definitely going to be hyped for this game. I think Ohio State is looking for their 4th or 5th win in a row against Penn State. I believe it's the 4th. But I'm going to say what I said in my Ohio State video. I'm leaning towards Ohio State in this game just because of the fact that Penn State does not have a reliable wide receiver as of right now because they just lost KJ Hamler. They have some talent at wide receiver, but as far as I know, I do not know any target that Penn State can go to and say, you're the guy. They have Journey Brown out of the backfield. He's a great runner. Sean Clifford is a pretty good quarterback. Pat Freiermuth is going to be one of the best tight ends in college football this year. But then when you look at the wide receiver, Penn State has everything Ohio State does. They have everything except a top wide receiver. It does come down to the wide receiver play in this game for me. Of course, Ohio State has Olave. They have Wilson. They have Julian Fleming coming in, all guys that really can make some plays. I don't know anyone for Penn State that can do what Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and what Julian Fleming is capable of doing. KJ Hamler was their guy. Now he's gone to the NFL draft. So I got to lean towards Ohio State in this one. I might change my mind. Penn State can find a target. It is in week 7, so they do have some time. But for right now, got to give this one to the Buckeyes. Next, it's going to be on Halloween. It's a road game against Indiana. I think Indiana can be a fairly decent team this year. Indiana's got a tough schedule, though. They do have to play Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. But Indiana, I think it surprised a lot of people this year. I think they were very good last year. I think better than a lot of people expected. And I think they can continue that trend this year. They're building up their coaching staff. They're building up their talent. They just keep bringing in better and better recruits year after year. Indiana, I think, could finally stable itself as one of the top programs in the Big Ten in a couple of years. As far as right now, I know the game is in Bloomington. I think this is going to be a closer game than a lot of people think. I'm still going to give Penn State the edge here just because of the sheer talent gap. Then they have to play their second consecutive road game. This game is going to be Nebraska. So I think a lot of people are talking like Nebraska could beat Penn State. They could do it. They could do it. And I'm here today to shut that down. I don't think Nebraska is going to be able to match up with Penn State. I think it could be a good game for a half, maybe even 3 quarters. I just don't think Nebraska can last 4 quarters. I do think Nebraska is going to be better this year. I do think Nebraska is going to make a bowl game this year, but I don't think Nebraska is there quite yet to match with what Penn State and especially Ohio State bring to the table. So I'm going to give this one to the Nittany Lions. Then they come back home. They're going to be playing Michigan State. Michigan State, of course, is on a little bit of a decline. Mark D'Antonio is out. Mel Tucker is in. Michigan State has just been declining for a couple of years now. I think they could get back up, but I think we're going to have to give Mel Tucker a little bit of time. It's a big change from Colorado to Michigan State. It's a whole new level of play, in my opinion. I know Pac-12 is still a Power 5 conference, but to me, the Big Ten is a level above the Pac-12. I think Michigan State could potentially make a bowl game next year, and I think they could have some fairly decent spurts in their season. But when you have to play Penn State at home, it's not easy. And for an average team like Michigan State, I don't think they can pull off the upset. So I have the Nittany Lions on this one as well. I also have the Nittany Lions winning their next game. It's a home game against Maryland. I know I mentioned this in the earlier video. We all thought Maryland could be something special. We really did. We really thought Maryland could be something special last year. A crazy amount of points in their first 2 games, and then they ended up 3-9. They ended up 3-9, and it was a huge disappointment. I think Maryland is going to be better than 3-9 this year, but I do not think Maryland is going to be good enough to beat Penn State. I'm giving the Nittany Lions the win in this one. Then your last game of the season, a road game against Rutgers. I know it's at Rutgers, but I mean, come on. It's Rutgers. I know. They're getting Greg Schiano back at head coach. So I really, really am hoping that Rutgers gets better this year, but they're not going to be good enough quite yet in order to beat Penn State. So I got the Nittany Lions in this one. Now, with everything I just said and everything considered, I had the Nittany Lions going 11-1, and of course, that one loss to me is to Ohio State. I think until Penn State can find a reliable wide receiver, I know Pat Freiermuth is going to be probably the favorite target for Sean Clifford this year, but until they can find someone to replace KJ Hamler, I can't see them beating the Buckeyes, even if it is at home in the whiteout in the night game. I just think Ohio State has everything Penn State has plus a little bit more. So that's why I'm giving Penn State the one loss there. But other than that, I really can't see them losing another game. I know the Michigan game's going to be tough. Virginia Tech game might get interesting. Nebraska and Indiana could be better. But I don't really see them losing any of those games. I think they could be interesting, but I think Penn State can pull all of them out. So now let's look at our record range. What this is we take this team's worst case scenario with their best case scenario. And the worst case scenario I have for Penn State is 9-3. Now, the reason I have Penn State's worst case scenario at 9-3 is because when you look at their road schedule, it's a little tougher than most teams in the Big Ten. You have to go on the road to play Virginia Tech. It's not that easy of a place to play. Even if Virginia Tech is having a down year, it's still a very hard place to play. You have to look at Michigan, the big house. Of course, it's a tough place to play. You get Ohio State at home, which is good, but you got to go on the road to Indiana. They're a team that could surprise people. As I said before, you have to go on the road to Nebraska. Again, could surprise people. On the road at Rutgers is nothing special quite yet. But when you look at those, I think 3 of those 4 road games are going to be tough for, or 3 of those 5 road games, are going to be tough for Penn State. Again, those 3 losses. One is to Ohio State, as I predicted, and then the second obvious one would be Michigan, and then maybe you lose to Virginia Tech or Indiana, or you lose some of those road games. Maybe the FPI is right about Northwestern. But I really can't see the Nittany Lions doing worse than 9-3. And then, of course, their best case scenario, and this is what every team dreams of every season. It's that perfect 12-0 mark. I really do see Penn State being favored in every single game here, maybe except the Ohio State game. I think I even see Penn State favored in that. But as far as winning the game goes, if Penn State can beat Ohio State and they are undefeated coming into the Ohio State game, if they can get out of that game and have a 7-0 record, when you look at the rest of their schedule, there's really no reason why Penn State shouldn't be able to go undefeated. Yes, Indiana and Nebraska might be a little bit of a challenge depending on how good they are next year. But really, when you just look at all these games on paper and really just put your brain to it, you really can't see any reason why Penn State shouldn't go undefeated if they end up beating Ohio State and coming out of the game undefeated. But with everything I have just said about how Penn State needs to find a reliable wide receiver in order to beat Ohio State, I have Penn State at 11-1. So that's going to do it for my schedule preview and record predictions for the Penn State Nittany Lions. If you guys enjoyed, please do leave a thumbs up. Also consider subscribing if you're brand new to the channel or just enjoy the content that I put out. Also, please do leave a comment down below. What do you have Penn State going this season? Are they better than I think? Are they worse than I think? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments. I truly do read through every one of them, and it means a lot to me if I get feedback. Again, I'm still new, so I appreciate the feedback from all you guys. And until next time, play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.